Have you ever noticed how some women don't flirt in a direct way? Instead, they check your awareness quietly, especially when you are a man over 50. Women act differently around you. They do not want to appear needy. They do not want to seem too easy. So they ask certain things instead. And here is what most men do not understand. A woman who feels drawn to an older man will almost always ask two very specific questions. It is like a message hidden in plain sight. Before I reveal them, do me a small favor. Tap the like button and comment if you have ever missed a woman's signal and only understood it later. Your engagement helps this reach more men who need it. My name is Mary Smith, and this is the Mindful Senior Living YouTube channel, where we explore the deeper emotional patterns of human connection, relationships, and the quiet psychology that shapes how people truly interact with one another. Now, if you are watching this and you are over 50, I want to ask you something very honest. Have you ever walked away from a conversation with a woman and later thought, was she actually interested in me? Maybe hours later, maybe days later, maybe even years later, when suddenly the memory returns and you realize something you completely missed in that moment. If that has ever happened to you, you are not alone. In fact, it happens to men constantly, especially mature men. And the reason is surprisingly simple. Most men expect attraction to be obvious. They expect smiles, compliments, direct flirting, or clear invitations. But feminine psychology does not usually work that way, especially when a woman feels drawn to a mature man who carries life experience, emotional depth, and presence. Women often move more quietly, more subtly, more intelligently than most men expect. Instead of saying exactly what they feel, they observe, they sense. They explore the emotional landscape of the man standing in front of them. And when a woman begins to feel a certain curiosity about you, something changes in her behavior. Her words become small tests, gentle invitations, emotional signals wrapped inside ordinary conversation. This is where so many men miss the moment completely. You might think she is simply making polite conversation. You might assume she is just being friendly. You might answer casually and move on, but what you do not realize is that she was actually opening a door for connection. And once that door quietly closes, women rarely open it again. You see, when a woman feels a subtle attraction toward a mature man, she does not usually express it through obvious flirting. Instead, she begins asking questions that reveal three things about you. First, she wants to understand your emotional strength as a man. Not physical strength, not financial strength, emotional steadiness. Second, she wants to sense your availability, not whether your calendar is free, but whether your heart has room for connection. And third, she wants to see your awareness, whether you are the kind of man who notices emotional signals or whether you move through conversations half asleep. These questions are not random. They are deeply connected to feminine psychology. Many men over 50 grew up in a time when communication was more direct. People said what they meant more clearly. Attraction was often expressed more openly. But modern emotional communication, even among mature adults, often moves in subtler ways. A woman rarely says, "I am attracted to you." She does not say, "I would like to get closer to you." And she almost never says, "I am curious about you romantically." Instead, she explores, she asks questions that appear simple on the surface but carry deeper meaning underneath. And here's the quiet fear that lives in many women, especially when interacting with older men. If she shows too much interest too quickly, she worries he might see her as desperate. If she becomes too direct, she worries she might feel rejected. And rejection for many women is not just uncomfortable, it feels deeply personal. So what does she do instead? She hides her attraction inside curiosity. She wraps it inside questions. Questions that look completely harmless to a man who is not paying attention. But to a man who understands feminine psychology, those questions are incredibly revealing. Think about it like this. Men often express interest through action. When a man likes a woman, he offers help. He gives advice. He opens doors. He takes initiative. He tries to move things forward. Women often express interest through curiosity. When a woman feels drawn to someone, she asks questions that create closeness. Not interrogation, connection. And while there are many questions a woman might ask during normal conversation, there are two that appear again and again when she is quietly exploring intimacy with a mature man. Before I reveal those two questions, I want you to understand something important. She is not asking because she wants information. She is asking because she wants to feel something. She wants to feel your emotional warmth. She wants to sense your presence. She wants to know whether the man in front of her is calm, grounded, and emotionally available. These questions are not about facts. They are about energy. They are emotional bridges she places between you and her. And when you step onto that bridge with awareness, something shifts inside her mind and inside her body. She begins to feel a sense of connection, possibility, safety. Most men respond to these questions at face value. They answer quickly and move on. But a wiser man, an aware man, understands the deeper meaning behind them. Because when she asks these questions, she is not collecting data. She is checking alignment. She is checking your awareness. She is checking whether you are the kind of man who notices what lies beneath the surface. Women do not need a man to impress them with stories, achievements, or displays of status. What they truly respond to is presence, calm awareness, emotional steadiness, the ability to sit in a moment and actually see the person in front of you. These two questions matter because they are not random curiosity, they are invitations. The first question she asks a man she feels drawn toward is designed to uncover one important thing: your availability, not your schedule, your heart. She wants to sense whether your life has emotional space for someone new. This is not a practical question, it is a psychological one. It is her quiet way of asking, are you open or closed? Is your life flexible enough for connection, or are you locked inside your routines? Can someone step into your world, or would they feel like an interruption? Women do not enjoy investing emotional energy where there is no room for them, so before revealing deeper interest, they test for openness. It is similar to how a man might lean slightly closer to a woman during conversation to see if she leans toward him or away. This first question is her emotional version of that moment. But many men miss it completely. They assume she is simply chatting. Then comes the second question, and this one reveals something even deeper. The second question is not about your past. It is not about your career. It is not even about your achievements. It is about your direction. Women are deeply sensitive to whether a man is anchored in his life. They can feel the difference between a man who is drifting through the years and a man who is still living with intention. A woman might feel attracted to a man physically, but she only moves closer when she senses something stronger: purpose, direction, emotional stability. And that is exactly what the second question is designed to discover. When she asks it, she is imagining something very specific. She is imagining what it would feel like to step into your life. Would it feel steady? Would it feel warm? Would it feel meaningful? Or would it feel confusing and uncertain? For women, emotional safety is incredibly important when attraction begins to grow. And emotional safety does not come from perfection. It comes from clarity. Clarity about who you are. Clarity about where you are going. Clarity about the kind of life you are building. This is why these two questions appear again and again across cultures, personalities, and age groups, even when women do not consciously realize why they are asking them. Now imagine a simple real-life moment. You are sitting in a cafe, or perhaps standing in line somewhere. Maybe you are talking at a friend's gathering. The conversation is easy. There is warmth, a little laughter, a relaxed rhythm. Then suddenly she asks something that sounds very simple. So, do you spend a lot of time alone? At first glance, it sounds like harmless curiosity, but it is not. That question carries meaning. And when you understand that meaning, you begin to see something many men overlook, because this is the first question. And when a woman asks it, she is quietly opening the door. Next, I am going to explain exactly why women ask this question, what they are really trying to discover, and most importantly, how a grounded, emotionally intelligent man answers it, in a way that naturally increases attraction, because the way you respond in that moment can either open the path to deeper connection or close the door completely. And once that door closes, most women do not knock again. If this insight is already making you see past conversations differently, take a moment to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your experiences often help other men. Now let's continue with the moment we left off. You are having a relaxed conversation with a woman. The energy feels easy. She laughs a little. She seems comfortable around you. Then suddenly she asks a question that appears simple. So, do you spend a lot of time alone? Most men hear this and think it is nothing more than small talk. They answer quickly without thinking. Some say, "Yeah, I'm alone most of the time." Others shrug and say, "Not really, I just keep busy." Then the conversation moves on. But what many men fail to realize is that this question is rarely casual. When a woman asks a mature man whether he spends a lot of time alone, she is not asking about loneliness. She is asking about access. In her mind, there is a quiet curiosity forming. She is wondering if there is room in your life for someone like her, not physically, emotionally. Women often experience attraction in stages. The first stage is observation. She watches how you speak, how you carry yourself, how you respond to people around you. She notices whether you appear calm or restless, confident or uncertain. If something about your presence feels steady to her, she moves into the second stage, curiosity. Now imagine this from her perspective. She sees a mature man who appears composed. Maybe you carry yourself with quiet confidence. So she begins to wonder, is this man emotionally available? And instead of asking directly, she asks the safer version. Do you spend a lot of time alone? Women ask this in many forms. Are you seeing anyone? Do you enjoy your solitude? Each version sounds slightly different, but the psychology behind it is the same. She is trying to sense whether there is space in your life. If a woman had zero interest in you, she would not ask this question at all. She would talk about the weather. The moment she asks about your personal life in this way, she has already imagined the possibility of being part of it. You have entered her awareness. She is evaluating whether stepping closer would feel welcome. Unfortunately, this is the exact moment where many men accidentally shut the door without realizing it. Let me give you an example. A man might answer the question like this. Yeah, I spend most of my time alone. I like being by myself. Now, there is nothing wrong with enjoying solitude. In fact, healthy independence is very attractive. But the tone behind the response matters more than the words. If your answer feels emotionally closed, she may hear something very different from what you intended. She may hear, "This man is not open to connection." Or another common response is this. "No, I'm actually very busy all the time." Again, nothing wrong with being busy. But if it sounds like your life is completely full, she may interpret it as a lack of space. And remember something important about feminine psychology. Women do not enjoy competing for attention. In the early stages of attraction, they prefer situations where emotional space already exists. Now let's look at how a grounded, emotionally aware man responds instead. He answers honestly, but he also leaves room for possibility. He might say something like, "I enjoy my time alone, but I also appreciate good company when it comes along." Or, "I've learned to enjoy my own space, but life is always better when the right person shares it." Do you notice the difference? This type of response communicates balance. You are not desperate for companionship, but you are not emotionally closed either. You have independence, yet you remain open, and that combination is incredibly attractive. Women often describe this feeling as emotional safety. They sense that you are strong enough to stand on your own, yet warm enough to allow connection. This is what mature attraction looks like. It is not loud or dramatic. It is calm and inviting. Now here is something fascinating. When a woman feels encouraged by your response, something inside her relaxes. She senses the door is open. And when that happens, she often moves toward the second question. This question is even more revealing. Because while the first question measures openness, the second question measures direction. Sooner or later, during conversation, she might look at you thoughtfully and ask something like this. "So, what are you looking for these days?" Again, it sounds simple, almost casual, but psychologically, it is one of the most important questions a woman can ask a man she considers romantically. This question appears in many different forms. What are you focusing on in life right now? What do you want at this stage of your life? All of these are asking the same underlying thing. Does this man know where he is going? Women are deeply sensitive to direction in a man, especially when that man is over 50. Why? Because they assume you have lived enough to understand yourself. A younger man can still be figuring things out. He can drift a little. But when a woman meets a mature man, she expects something different. She expects clarity, not perfection. Clarity. And this is where the second question becomes so powerful. When she asks what you are looking for, she is simply listening for one thing: purpose, direction, emotional awareness. Unfortunately, this is another moment where many men accidentally break the attraction. A man might shrug and say, "I don't know, I'm just taking life one day at a time." Or he might say, "Honestly, I'm just trying to relax and enjoy whatever happens." On the surface, these responses sound harmless, but they can signal something else: drifting. And drifting rarely inspires attraction. Women are deeply drawn to men who move with intention. A man who knows what kind of life he wants to create. A man who understands what matters. A man who is emotionally awake. So how does a grounded man answer this question? He answers with quiet clarity. For example, he might say something like, "At this stage of my life, I'm focused on building a life that feels meaningful, good experiences, and strong connections." Or he might say, "I'm looking for a chapter of life that feels calm but alive, shared moments, and people who bring real energy into life." Notice something important here. These are simple. They are not rehearsed speeches. They are simple statements of intention. And when a woman hears that clarity, something happens. She begins imagining herself inside that life. Not because you invited her directly, but because your direction made space for possibility. You see, attraction for women often begins in imagination. They imagine sharing your world. Would it feel peaceful? Would it feel exciting? Would it feel emotionally safe? These two questions allow her to answer those feelings. When the answer is positive, attraction deepens. And here is the most important insight. These questions are not about words. They are about energy. She is feeling the tone behind your responses, your calmness, your presence, your confidence. If those qualities are there, the connection grows naturally. If they are missing, it fades away. Now let's go deeper into something most men never realize. Women rarely repeat emotional invitations. When a woman opens a small door of curiosity and it goes unnoticed, she usually closes it quietly. Not because she lost interest, but because feminine psychology is naturally protective. Many women are deeply aware of vulnerability. Showing interest, even in subtle ways, can feel risky. So when she asks those two questions, she is taking a small emotional step forward. If that step is met with presence, the connection grows. If it is ignored, the moment fades. And this is where many men later look back and suddenly realize something. They remember her. They remember a woman who seemed warm and curious. They remember the questions she asked. And later they think, wait, was she actually interested in me? Very often, the answer is yes. But the moment passed because the signals were subtle. Women communicate attraction through shifts. The tone of her voice softens. Her eye contact lingers. Her questions move slightly deeper. These are the quiet signs that curiosity is turning into attraction. Stay aware and don't walk past the invitation. And this is especially true when a woman interacts with a mature man. Women often approach older men differently than younger ones. With younger men, attraction can sometimes be playful, spontaneous, or even chaotic. But with mature men, women often move more thoughtfully. They expect emotional stability. They expect self-awareness. They expect presence. In other words, they expect the kind of calm confidence that usually develops after decades of life experience. So when a woman asks those two questions, she is not just gathering information. She is feeling the emotional atmosphere around you. Let's imagine a real-life moment together. You are sitting across from a woman at a small cafe. The conversation flows naturally. There is laughter, maybe a little teasing. You both feel comfortable. Then she leans slightly forward and asks, "So, do you spend a lot of time alone?" Now imagine two different responses. In the first version, the man answers distractedly. Maybe he shrugs, checks his phone, and says something vague like, "Yeah, I guess so." The conversation continues, but the emotional energy drops. In the second version, the man looks at her calmly and answers with presence. He says something like, "I do enjoy my quiet time, but I also enjoy good company when it feels right." Suddenly, the moment feels different. She feels acknowledged. The conversation breathes again. Later, perhaps 20 minutes into the conversation, she asks the second question. "What are you looking for these days?" Again, two possible outcomes. In one version, the man laughs nervously and says, "Honestly, I have no idea. I'm just seeing what happens." In another version, the man pauses for a moment and answers thoughtfully, "At this stage of my life, I value real connection. People who make life richer, not more complicated." That single sentence tells her something incredibly important. You are awake, you are intentional, you are emotionally present, and those qualities are magnetic. Because here is something many men underestimate. Women do not fall for perfection. They fall for emotional presence. They fall for the feeling that the man in front of them is truly there, aware, grounded, and alive inside. This is especially important for men over 50. By that stage of life, many women have already experienced relationships that lacked emotional awareness. They have encountered men who were distracted, unavailable, or lost in their own internal worlds. So when they meet a man who feels different, someone calm and attentive, it creates a strong emotional pull. And yet, even when that attraction begins to grow, women rarely rush forward. Instead, they observe. They watch how you handle small emotional moments. They notice whether you listen carefully or interrupt. They notice whether you respond thoughtfully or dismissively. They notice whether you seem comfortable with silence or anxious to fill every gap with words. These subtle observations shape their perception of you, and often they matter more than any impressive story or achievement you might share. Because attraction is not built only on what you say, it is built on how you make someone feel in your presence. Let me tell you about something psychologists often call emotional resonance. This happens when two people begin to feel aligned in the rhythm of their conversation. Their pauses match, their laughter overlaps naturally. Their eye contact becomes comfortable rather than awkward. When emotional resonance appears, curiosity often deepens into attraction. And this is exactly when those two questions appear most frequently. They are checkpoints, quiet emotional checkpoints. The first one checks openness. The second checks direction. When both answers feel reassuring, something changes in the woman's mind. She begins to imagine what closeness might feel like. Not necessarily a relationship immediately, but a connection, a conversation that continues, a moment that becomes something more. And here is something fascinating about feminine psychology. Women are often very aware of emotional shifts inside themselves, but they may not always analyze them consciously. A woman might simply feel that she enjoys being around you. She might feel relaxed in your presence. She might feel curious about your life. Those feelings guide her questions. Now I want to pause for a moment and invite you into this conversation. If you have ever experienced a moment where you realized later that a woman might have been showing interest, write "I missed the sign" in the comments below. You might be surprised how many men share that exact experience. Your comment could help another viewer realize that these subtle signals are far more common than most men think. Now there is another important piece of this puzzle: the difference between answering a question and responding with presence. Many men treat conversation like a series of facts. A question comes in, an answer goes out. But emotional communication works differently. When a woman asks those two questions, she is not just listening to your words. She is sensing your emotional state. Are you relaxed? Are you defensive? Are you open? Or are you distant? A grounded man does not rush his answers. He pauses slightly. He makes eye contact. He speaks calmly. And those small behaviors communicate something very powerful. Confidence. Not loud confidence. Quiet confidence. Women feel that difference instantly, and when they feel it, something inside them relaxes. Because emotional safety is one of the strongest foundations of attraction. When a woman feels emotionally safe around a man, she becomes more playful, more curious, more expressive. The conversation deepens naturally. And this is where connection begins to grow beyond simple friendliness. But if she senses confusion, emotional heaviness, or a lack of direction, the energy often shifts the other way. She becomes polite again, friendly, but no longer curious. This is why awareness matters so much. These two questions are not random conversation. They are invitations. Invitations to show the kind of emotional maturity that women deeply appreciate in a man who has lived, learned, and grown through life. And once you begin recognizing these moments, something interesting happens. You stop wondering whether a woman is interested. You start seeing the signs clearly. Today, we are going to talk about something even more powerful: how men over 50 can naturally become more attractive simply by understanding these emotional signals, and why many women secretly find mature men far more compelling than younger ones when they carry the right energy. Because attraction is not about age, it is about presence. And once you understand that, the way you see your own value begins to change. Now let's talk about something that many men over 50 quietly struggle with but rarely say out loud: the belief that their best years of attraction are behind them. Some men begin to feel invisible. They assume younger women would not be interested. They assume women their own age are no longer curious about romance. They start moving through conversations cautiously, almost as if they are apologizing for their age. But the truth is very different. In many ways, mature men hold advantages that younger men have not yet developed, and women who have lived through real experiences often recognize these qualities immediately. A mature man who carries emotional steadiness, clarity, and presence can be incredibly attractive, not because of flashy confidence, not because of wealth or status, but because he feels grounded, and grounding is rare. When women describe the kind of man they feel safe opening up to, they often use words like calm, thoughtful, emotionally aware, and intentional. These are qualities that frequently develop through years of life experience. But here is the key point many men miss. Those qualities only become attractive when they are expressed with awareness. If a man becomes closed off, emotionally distant, or cynical about relationships, his maturity does not feel grounding. It feels heavy. But when a man stays emotionally awake, curious about life, and open to connection, his maturity becomes magnetic. And this is exactly why those two questions we talked about earlier matter so much. When a woman asks whether you spend a lot of time alone, she is exploring your openness. When she asks what you are looking for these days, she is exploring your direction. Together, these two answers create a powerful emotional signal. They tell her whether you are a man who has retreated from life or a man who is still fully living it. And women are deeply drawn to men who are still living with intention. Let's imagine another moment together. You are speaking with a woman at a bookstore. Maybe you both reached for the same novel. The conversation begins casually. You talk about authors you enjoy, travel stories, life experiences. The energy is relaxed. Then she asks, "Do you usually come here alone?" This is simply another version of that first question. Instead of answering quickly, you pause for a moment. You smile and say, "Most of the time, yes. But good company always makes places like this more interesting." That response does something subtle but powerful. It communicates independence, but it also communicates openness. Later, the conversation continues. Perhaps you walk together toward the coffee area. The conversation becomes slightly deeper. Then she asks, "So, what are you focusing on these days?" Again, another version of the second question. Instead of giving a vague answer, you respond calmly. "I'm focusing on creating a life that feels meaningful. Good experiences, genuine connections, and staying curious about the world." Now, something interesting happens inside her mind. She begins imagining what life might feel like around you. Would conversations be thoughtful? Would moments feel calm? Would she feel emotionally safe? That imagination is where attraction begins to grow. And none of it required flashy flirting. None of it required clever lines. It simply required presence. Presence is something many men underestimate. It means being fully in the moment, listening carefully, responding thoughtfully, not rushing to impress, not trying to dominate the conversation, just being grounded in who you are. When a woman senses that kind of presence, it creates a feeling many women describe as rare, because in a world full of distractions, very few people are truly present anymore. Phones buzz, notifications appear, attention moves everywhere except the person in front of us. So when someone listens deeply, speaks calmly, and responds with intention, it feels refreshing, memorable, attractive. Now here is a small exercise you can practice in everyday conversations. The next time someone asks you a question, do something very simple. Pause for 2 seconds before answering. Look at the person speaking. Take a breath, then respond calmly. That small pause signals confidence. It shows you are thinking rather than reacting, and this alone can transform the emotional tone of a conversation. Another powerful habit is learning to listen without immediately preparing your next sentence. Many people listen only halfway because they are already planning what they will say next. But true listening creates emotional connection. When a woman feels truly heard, she relaxes. She opens up more. Her curiosity grows, and curiosity is often the first step toward attraction. Now, I want to address something very important before we finish. Some men hear discussions about feminine psychology and assume it means manipulating conversations. That is not what this is about. Understanding emotional signals is not about controlling someone. It is about awareness. It is about recognizing when someone is offering a moment of connection and responding with authenticity rather than confusion. When you understand the meaning behind those two questions, you do not change who you are. You simply become more conscious of how you express yourself. And that awareness allows genuine connections to grow more naturally. Because the truth is, many women are not looking for perfection. They are looking for presence. They are looking for someone who is emotionally awake, someone who knows who he is, someone who still approaches life with curiosity rather than resignation. And when a woman senses that energy in a mature man, something very powerful happens. Respect grows, curiosity deepens, attraction follows. Now, I would love to hear from you. Have you ever had a conversation where a woman asked one of these two questions? Maybe you recognized the meaning behind it in the moment, or maybe you realized it later. Share your experience in the comments. And if today's conversation helped you see these subtle signals more clearly, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Every like, comment, and share helps these insights reach more men who might otherwise walk past meaningful connections without realizing it. Before you go, write the phrase, "I see the signs," in the comments if you understand the message we explored today. Because once you begin noticing these small emotional signals, something interesting happens. You stop guessing, you stop wondering, and you start recognizing the quiet moments when someone is opening the door to connection. Sometimes all it takes is awareness to step through that door.